Sonic bird deterrents in tailing ponds. 500,000 to 1 million birds annually perish in tailing ponds in the United States alone. Many birds are waterfowl, unsuspectingly land in the oil-contaminated lakes. Shorebirds who feed on the banks of the ponds can become victims of contamination through ingestion and of saturation of feathers. The hydrocarbons that are contained in the tailing ponds saturate the bird's feathers and eliminate the feathers' ability to repel water. Birds die from hypothermia because their down feathers become influxed in water. Many birds drown because of the weight of their soaked feathers. Why are we concerned with tailing ponds? Because tailing ponds are becoming much larger with the refining of the oil sand reserves in Alberta, Canada, which contain the second largest reserves of oil in the world. If we pan in, we can view how large of an area that the oil sand reserves encompass. It is estimated that there's 174 billion barrels of oil in this reserve, and you can see in the right hand corner just how extensive that area is. It takes 3 barrels of water to refine 1 barrel of oil sands. It is estimated that 187 billion gallons of water have already been used refining the oil sands, and that the tailing ponds encompass 80 square miles to date. Because the water is heated in this refining process, the lakes never freeze, and they entice the birds to land on them. The oil sands are so thick that it has to be superheated just for it to flow. It produces a mud-like substance that is contaminated with mercury, cadmium, and other heavy metals, which are cast out in the tailing ponds so they can settle, but the hydrocarbons never do. During the spring migration season, when many of the waterfowl and other shorebirds come north to breed, they find that many of the natural lakes are still frozen over, but the tailing ponds never freeze, so the birds land on them. Many become saturated with oil and never fly again. While oil sand matters concerning the Keystone Pipeline permeate the media, almost secretively at the southern end of Lake Michigan, the largest construction project in the United States is being undergone. The BP oil company is spending billions of dollars to restructure its Whiting, Indiana refinery to process oil sands, which are sent via pipeline from the tar sand reserves in Alberta to the U.S. To date, there has already been problems with the oil sand pipelines. So how can we protect waterfowl and shorebirds from getting contaminated by oil in tailing ponds and oil spills in the future? Let's look at some of the ways that man has tried to keep birds from landing in inhospitable areas. We have used human effigies by themselves, but after a while the birds become adapted to them and no longer fear the sight of a scarecrow type object. Propane cannons send off a loud percussion at timed intervals, but birds seem to become adapted to them after the constant timed firings. So they have combined human effigies and propane cannons at timed intervals, and once again, the birds become adapted to the sounds. So what can be done to keep these birds from flying onto the tailing ponds or oil spills? Well, recently there has been a new technology has been very successful in just that. Radar-activated sonic deterrents combine predatory effigies, propane cannons, and radar detection. The propane cannon is only activated when the radar detects the birds entering the zone. Birds do not adapt to the sound because the cannon is not constantly exploding. There is a large success rate on the tailing ponds with this type of deterrent, so there is hope that it can be used in oil spills in the future. It detects birds at night as well as during the day, and it conserves propane energy because it's only activated when the birds are detected. Fossil fuel production concerning tar sands is only going to increase, as will the number and size of the tailing ponds and the probability of future oil spills. It is costly to bird biodiversity to lose so many birds to oil processing accidents. It is also costly to rescue and clean birds. If the majority of the birds never land on the tailing ponds or oil-laced water, then bird diversity and cost can be saved. So what can you do? Be informed about the tar sands production, and call government agencies to voice your concern and for the use of radar-activated sonic bird deterrents to help save birds in tailing ponds and in oil spills.